In 5 years, Kang Ji-hoon had never said please. He'd toppled rival organizations, negotiated multi-million-dollar arms deals, and orchestrated political scandals, all without uttering that single word. But when Zara Williams placed her resignation letter on his desk with perfectly steady hands, that word suddenly became the only weapon he didn't know how to use. Kang Ji-hoon's corner office overlooked the glittering Seoul skyline like a throne room surveying a conquered kingdom. At 38, he commanded the Baekho faction with an iron fist wrapped in designer suits, feared, respected, untouchable. His greatest pride wasn't the empire he'd inherited and tripled, but his ability to control every variable, every person, every outcome. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. I have missed you all. Missed all the experiences we've had together. It's been a rough ride, but trust me, we're getting everything back and running. So stick around. I need your support on YouTube now more than ever. Thank you specially for sticking around to this very moment. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now, back to the story. Zara Williams walked in at 9 a.m. sharp, as she had every morning for 5 years. But this morning was different. She wore her usual immaculate navy suit, her dark locks pulled into a professional bun, her expression giving away nothing, that infuriating composure that had made her the perfect shield between him and chaos. She'd survived what 37 assistants before her couldn't. His impossible standards, his volcanic temper, his dangerous world. "Mr. Kang," she said, placing a cream envelope on his desk with the same efficiency she brought to everything. "My formal resignation. 2 weeks' notice, as contracted." For the first time in a decade, Kang Ji-hoon felt something he'd forgotten, the cold grip of fear. Kang Ji-hoon stared at the cream envelope like it was a bomb that hadn't detonated yet. 2 weeks. She'd given him 2 weeks to find someone who could do in 5 years what she'd done in 5 minutes every single day. "Request denied," he said, sliding the envelope back across his desk. Zara didn't move to take it. She simply stood there, hands clasped in front of her, that infuriating calm settling over her features like armor. She'd survived what 37 assistants before her couldn't. His impossible standards, his volcanic temper, his dangerous world. "Mr. Kang," she said, placing a cream envelope on his desk with the same efficiency she brought to everything. "My formal resignation. 2 weeks' notice, as contracted." For the first time in a decade, Kang Ji-hoon felt something he'd forgotten, the cold grip of fear. Kang Ji-hoon stared at the cream envelope like it was a bomb that hadn't detonated yet. 2 weeks. She'd given him 2 weeks to find someone who could do in 5 years what she'd done in 5 minutes every single day. "Request denied," he said, sliding the envelope back across his desk. Zara didn't move to take it. She simply stood there, hands clasped in front of her, that infuriating calm settling over her features like armor. "It's not a request, Mr. Kang. It's a notification." The words hit him harder than any rival's threat ever had. He reached for his phone, pressed the button for HR. "Director Kim, find out what she wants. Salary increase, benefits, whatever it is, have the paperwork ready in an hour." He remembered the first time she'd saved him. 3 years ago, the Chungpa deal that would have buried him if it went south. He'd been too proud to see the trap, but Zara had walked into his office at midnight with a single file folder. "Mr. Kang, their third-party contractor has ties to the prosecutor's office." She'd said it without drama, without fear, like she was commenting on the weather. The deal collapsed the next day, their rivals arrested instead of him. Then there was the betrayal she'd caught before it bloomed. His own cousin, skimming money, building alliances with the Namsan faction. Zara had placed the evidence on his desk with her usual efficiency. "You should handle this before Friday." She'd organized his chaos into an empire. Double your salary, Ji-hoon said now, forcing authority into his voice. Triple. Name your price. Zara's expression didn't change. It's not about money, Mr. Kang. Everything is about money. Not this. The door opened. Min-sok, his lieutenant, entered with unusual hesitancy. Hyung, can we talk? Ji-hoon waved him in impatiently. Zara excused herself with a polite nod. When she was gone, Min-sok closed the door. She's serious. I've seen the apartment she's viewing. Busan. She's leaving Seoul entirely. The words landed like ice in his chest. Busan. Not just leaving him, leaving everything. Find out why, Ji-hoon ordered. There's always a reason. Someone threatened her. Someone made her a better offer. Find it. And if there isn't? If she just wants out? The question hung in the air after Min-sok left. Ji-hoon sat alone in his office as the sun bled across the Seoul skyline, turning everything gold and red. The empire spread below him, glittering and ruthless, and suddenly fragile. For the first time since his father's funeral, Kang Ji-hoon felt something he'd trained himself never to feel. Panic. The first candidate lasted 7 minutes. She walked into Ji-hoon's office with an impressive resume and walked out with tears streaming down her face after he'd asked her to explain the difference between a shell corporation and a front company. The second candidate, a man with 10 years at a Fortune 500, made it to lunch before Ji-hoon found him sharing details of the morning's confidential call with a contact at the rival Gemgong faction. Security escorted him out by dinner. The third candidate was worse. She leaned across the desk during her interview, her hand brushing his. "I'm very good at handling powerful men, Mr. Kang." Zara had materialized in the doorway like an avenging angel, her voice ice. "The exit is that way." By day 4, Ji-hoon wanted to throw his phone through the window. A missed meeting with the city councilman. A botched negotiation because no one had prepared the correct files. His calendar was a disaster, double-booked and missing critical appointments. The empire he'd spent 15 years building was crumbling over spreadsheets and scheduling. "This one has potential," Zara said, introducing candidate number 8. Park Sung-min was efficient, educated, unflappable. He lasted 2 days before appearing in Zara's office, pale and shaking. "He's impossible," Sung-min said. "He expects me to read his mind, to anticipate things before they happen. I can't. I'm sorry, I just can't." Zara watched him go with something flickering in her eyes. Regret, maybe? Or vindication? That evening, Ji-hoon found her in the archive room, alone, boxing up her personal files. The sight of it, her 5 years disappearing into cardboard, snapped something in him. "Why are you doing this?" His voice came out rawer than he intended. "Did someone threaten you? Is it the danger? I can protect you better. More security, a new apartment, anything." "It's not about protection." "Then what? What is it about?" Zara's hands stilled on a folder. For the first time in 5 years, her composure cracked. Just slightly. Just enough for him to see the exhaustion underneath. "Because I have to." That's not an answer. "It's the only one I have." She left him standing there in the fluorescent light, surrounded by empty boxes, and the ghost of efficiency passed. Ji-hoon returned to his office, where 17 missed calls blinked on his phone. Tomorrow's meetings were scheduled wrong. He'd forgotten a weapons shipment clearance. His own mother had called 3 times, something he would have known if Zara had been there to remind him. He sat in his leather chair, master of nothing, and faced a truth he'd been avoiding for 6 days. "I can't replace you." The thought terrified him more than any rival ever had. Ji-hoon made the call at midnight. "Follow her. I want to know everything. Where she goes, who she meets, what job offer she's considering." The private investigator didn't ask questions. People in Ji-hoon's world rarely did. The report arrived 3 days later, and it made no sense. No job interviews, no meetings with headhunters or rival organizations. Instead, the surveillance photos showed a life he'd never bothered to notice. Zara at a small apartment in Songbukdong, modest and neat, nothing like the luxury penthouse her salary could afford. Zara at a community center in Itaewon every Tuesday, teaching English to immigrant children. Zara at a care facility in Gangnam every Sunday, sitting with an elderly woman who had her same smile. Her mother, the investigator noted, advanced dementia. She's been in care for 2 years. 2 years. Ji-hoon had never asked. In 5 years, he'd never once asked about her family, her life, what she did when she left his office at night. She was just there, efficient, unshakable, a fixture like his desk or her view of the city. The door to his office burst open. A woman he'd never seen before stormed in past his security, all righteous fury and protective fire. "You're him, the one who treats her like a machine. Who the hell? Naomi, Zara's best friend. And you don't even see her, do you?" She threw something on his desk, a small notebook, the kind sold at convenience stores. 5 years. Do you know her favorite color? Her mother's name? What she does on weekends? Ji-hoon stared at the notebook. He didn't know any of it. "She worked through Panomia last year because you said the Tokyo deal couldn't wait. She stayed until midnight every Friday for 3 months because you never noticed she was still here. She's brilliant and kind and wasted on someone who can't even see her humanity." Naomi's voice cracked. "She's not leaving for another job. She's leaving because staying was killing her." The woman left. The notebook remained. That evening, Ji-hoon's mother appeared at his office unannounced, a rare occurrence that signaled danger. She took one look at her face and sat down. "What happened to you, Ji-hoon?" "Nothing happened to me. I built this empire." "When did you become so cold?" Her question was soft, devastating. "Your father was ruthless in business, yes, but he knew the people around him. He valued them." Ji-hoon thought about Zara working through illness, staying late without complaint, the loneliness he'd sometimes caught in her eyes before she shuttered it away. 5 years of her life, and he'd never once asked how she was, really asked. "I thought—" He stopped, started again. "I thought treating her professionally meant not asking personal questions." "No, my son. You thought treating her as an asset meant you didn't have to treat her as a person." After his mother left, Ji-hoon sat alone with the notebook. Inside were lists in Zara's precise handwriting. Things to remember for him. His mother's birthday, his cousin's wedding, the anniversary of his father's death. She'd been taking care of him in ways he'd never acknowledged. He opened his laptop, deleted the surveillance contract. Then he made a different kind of plan. "I need to make her want to stay. Not with money or pressure. With something he'd never offered anyone. Himself." The first gift arrived at Zara's apartment at dawn. A Hermes Birkin bag in burgundy leather, the kind that required a 2-year waiting list and connections Ji-hoon had called in specifically. By noon, it was back on his desk with a note in her precise handwriting. "I'm not for sale, Mr. Kang." The Cartier bracelet followed the same path the next day. Then the Chanel suit. Each return felt like a slap. Each note a variation of the same message. You still don't understand. On Wednesday morning, Ji-hoon decided to try something simpler. He'd watched her drink coffee every morning for 5 years. How hard could it be? He placed the cup on her desk before she arrived, a vanilla latte with extra foam, the fanciest thing the cafe downstairs offered. Zara took one sip and barely concealed her wince. "Thank you, Mr. Kang, but I drink black coffee, no sugar." 5 years. He'd never noticed. "Your efficiency increased by 23% last quarter," he announced that afternoon, attempting what he thought was a compliment. Very satisfactory performance metrics. Zara looked at him like he'd spoken in a foreign language. "Thank you, I think?" Min-suk found him in the break room, staring at the coffee machine like it held the secrets of the universe. "Hung, are you feeling all right? You look confused." "I'm trying to—" Ji-hoon stopped, realizing how it would sound. "Trying to what?" Young-soo, his other lieutenant, appeared behind Min-suk. "Wait, Hung is trying to be nice? He pressed his hand to Ji-hoon's forehead. Is this a stroke? Should we call a doctor? Get out. They left, but their laughter echoed down the hallway. Thursday afternoon, Ji-hoon found himself doing something unprecedented. He knocked on Zara's office door, the small room he'd given her 3 years ago, barely noticing when she'd added a small plant on the windowsill. How was your day? The words felt foreign in his mouth. Zara's fingers paused on her keyboard. My day? Yes, how was it? She studied him with those careful eyes, searching for the trap. Finding none, she spoke slowly. My mother had a good morning. She recognized me today. That doesn't happen often anymore. Ji-hoon pulled up a chair, something he'd never done before. Tell me about her. And she did, tentatively at first, then with gathering warmth. Her mother had been a literature professor, sharp and witty, who taught her to love words. The dementia had taken her slowly, memory by memory, until most days she didn't know her own daughter's name. I am sorry, Ji-hoon said, meaning it. That must be incredibly difficult. Something shifted in Zara's expression. The professional mask slipped just for a moment, and underneath it was something raw and real. A smile, small and genuine, before she caught herself and locked it away. But he'd seen it, and the sight of it did something strange to his chest. Across the city, in a private room at an expensive restaurant, Park Dong-min raised his glass to his lieutenants. Kang is distracted, weak. His assistant is leaving, and he's falling apart like a lovesick boy. He smiled, sharp and predatory. Next week, we move. Back in the office, Ji-hoon checked his calendar. 7 days until Zara's last day. 7 days to figure out what he was doing. 7 days to learn how to be human again. The gunfire started at 9 p.m. Ji-hoon had asked Zara to stay late, not demanded, asked, to review the quarterly reports. They were alone on the executive floor when the lights died and the emergency protocols activated. Red backup lighting bathed everything in blood as gunshots echoed from the lobby. Safe room, now! Ji-hoon grabbed her wrist, pulling her through his office to the hidden door behind the bookshelf. They tumbled inside just as bullets shattered the window where they'd been standing. He slammed the reinforced door shut, sealing them in darkness punctuated only by a single emergency light. Zara's breathing came fast. What's happening? Park Dong-min making his move. Ji-hoon pressed his hand to his side, feeling warmth. When he pulled it away, his palm was dark with blood. Earlier than expected. You're hit. She was at his side immediately, professional instinct overriding fear. Sit down, let me see. The wound was a graze, painful but not deep. Zara tore strips from her blouse, the expensive silk one he'd noticed that morning, and pressed them against his side. This close, he could smell her perfume, something subtle and warm he'd never paid attention to before. Security will clear them out, he said. 20 minutes, maybe 30. 30 minutes in the dark. 30 minutes of forced proximity and nothing to hide behind. Why are you really leaving? The question escaped before he could stop it. Her hands stilled. We've been over this. No, you've given me excuses, not reasons. In the dim light, he could barely see her face. Maybe that made it easier to ask. The truth, Zara, you owe me that much. I don't owe you anything, but her voice wavered. Because staying became impossible. Impossible how? You wouldn't understand. Then help me understand. He caught her wrist, gentle but desperate. I'm trying. I know I failed you, but I'm trying now. Please. The silence stretched between them, broken only by distant gunfire and her unsteady breathing. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. I can't be close to someone who doesn't see me, who will never see me as anything but an employee, a tool, She pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. 5 years, Ji-hoon. 5 years of being invisible while being essential. Do you know what that does to a person? Ji-hoon. She'd called him Ji-hoon. I see you. The words tore out of him, raw and honest. God help me, Zara. You're all I see. That's the problem. That's why I've been impossible and distant and—" He laughed, bitter. "I thought if I kept you at arm's length, if I stayed professional, I could control it. Control how much you mattered." She turned to face him, eyes wide in the darkness. "But you matter anyway. You matter so much, it terrifies me." The space between them dissolved. He reached for her face, she leaned into his palm, and for one suspended moment, the world narrowed to breath and proximity, and 5 years of unspoken truth rising to the surface. The door burst open. Minsok stood silhouetted against the hallway lights, gun drawn. Clear, everyone secured or eliminated. Ji-hoon and Zara sprang apart like teenagers caught by parents. The ride down the elevator was silent. The walk to her car, silent. She wouldn't look at him, and he didn't know what to say that wouldn't make everything worse. At her car door, she finally spoke. "I can't do this." Then she was gone, leaving him standing in the parking garage with blood on his shirt and his heart in his throat. The email arrived at 6 a.m. the next morning. "Mr. Kang, I'll be working remotely for my remaining 3 days. All transition documents will be completed and sent electronically. Z. Williams." Back to Mr. Kang. Back to formal distance. The almost kiss in the safe room might as well have been a dream. Ji-hoon tried to focus on salvaging the damage from Park Dong-min's failed attack, but his mind kept drifting. He missed a conference call with Tokyo, signed off on a contract without reading the amended terms. Minsok caught it just in time. At the Friday meeting with his lieutenants, he forgot what they were discussing mid-sentence. "Hyung," Young-soo ventured carefully, "maybe you should take a few days?" "I'm fine." He wasn't fine. His mother appeared Saturday afternoon, uninvited as always, taking in his disheveled appearance with a mother's knowing eye. She'd brought food he wouldn't eat and sat across from him in silence for a long moment. "Is she worth it?" his mother finally asked. "Worth losing your pride over?" Ji-hoon thought about Zara's hands on his wound, her whispered confession in the dark, 5 years of her quiet strength holding his world together. The way she'd looked at him in that moment before Minsok interrupted, like maybe, impossibly, she felt it too. Yes, the answer came without hesitation, surprising them both. His mother smiled, sad and knowing. "Then pride is the wrong thing to lose. You need to lose your fear instead." After she left, Ji-hoon sat at his desk with a blank piece of paper. Not a contract, not a business proposal, just paper and a pen and words he'd never learned how to write. He started and stopped a dozen times, crumpling false starts into the trash until the simple truth remained. "I'm sorry. I see you now. Let me prove it." Sunday evening, Naomi appeared at his door again, but this time her fury had dimmed to something closer to pity. "She's leaving Seoul," Naomi said without preamble. "Not just your company, the entire city. She has a plane ticket to Busan for Monday night." The words hit like a physical blow. Monday. Her last day is Monday. She's running. From you, from this, from feelings she can't afford to have. Naomi studied him with sharp eyes. "So I'll ask you what I came here to ask. How do you fix this?" "I don't know." The admission cost him. "Tell me how." "Can you give her what she actually needs? Not money, not protection, not efficiency or professional boundaries." She stepped closer, her voice dropping. "Can you give her you? The real you? Not the mafia boss, not the empire builder, just Ji-hoon? Can you be that vulnerable?" The question hung in the air like a challenge and a threat. Complete vulnerability? The one thing he'd spent 15 years training himself to never show. The one thing his father had beaten out of him. The one thing that had nearly destroyed him when his ex-fiancée had used his feelings as a weapon. But Zara wasn't his father. She wasn't his ex. She was Zara, brilliant, guarded, leaving, and he was running out of time. "Yes," he heard himself say, "I can try." Naomi nodded once, then left him alone with his fear and his letter and the knowledge that tomorrow was his last chance. Monday morning arrived cold and bright, and Ji-hoon's hand shook as he sealed the envelope. Zara arrived at 9 a.m. exactly. Professional armor fully restored. Navy suit, hair perfectly arranged, expression giving nothing away. Ji-hoon watched from his office as the staff approached her desk with awkward goodbyes and forced smiles, not sure how to say farewell to someone who'd been essential but somehow still invisible. He'd placed the envelope on her desk before anyone arrived, cream paper with her name in his handwriting, something he never did. She saw it immediately, touched it once, then left it unopened and got to work. They existed in loaded silence throughout the day. He made calls, she finalized transition documents. The clock on his wall became an enemy, each tick bringing him closer to losing something he'd been too proud to claim. At 4:30 p.m., she began packing. The small plant from her windowsill, the emergency cardigan she kept on her chair, 5 years of her life disappearing into a single cardboard box. She walked to his office at 4:55, returned her security badge, company phone, access cards. Each item placed on his desk with quiet finality. "Thank you for everything, Mr. Kang." Her voice was steady, professional. "Perfect. It's been an honor." Something in him broke. "It's Ji-hoon." The words came out rougher than intended. "It was always supposed to be Ji-hoon. He stopped, the rest of the sentence too big to fit through his throat. Zara's composure flickered. For one moment, her eyes were soft and sad and full of things neither of them could say. Then she nodded once and walked out. Ji-hoon didn't follow. He'd said everything that mattered in the letter. The elevator doors closed around her, and Zara finally let herself breathe. The envelope felt heavy in her hand. She almost threw it away unopened, cleaner that way, easier, but her fingers betrayed her and tore the seal. His handwriting was terrible, unpracticed and honest. She'd never seen it before, realized he'd probably never handwritten anything in years. The words blurred as she read. "Zara, I don't know how to do this. I've negotiated billion-dollar deals, but I don't know how to tell you what matters. So here's the truth, clumsy and unpolished. You were right. I didn't see you. I saw what you could do for me, what you fixed, what you organized. I saw the assistant. I never saw the woman who visited her mother every Sunday, who taught children English on Tuesdays, who worked through pneumonia because I was too blind to notice. I see you now, your strength and your loneliness, your patience with my impossibility, the way you take your coffee black and hate small talk, and sometimes get this look in your eyes like you're carrying the weight of the world. I'm not asking you to stay. I have no right to ask you anything. I'm asking if I can try to deserve you, if you'll give me the chance to learn how to be someone worthy of being seen by you. Ji-hoon." The elevator reached the lobby. Zara stood frozen as the doors opened, then closed, then opened again. Tears tracked down her face, ruining her makeup, destroying her composure. She pressed the button for the executive floor, then changed her mind and pressed lobby again, then executive. The elevator waited, patient, while she tried to decide whether Turridge was going back up or walking away. Zara never made it to her car. They grabbed her in the parking garage. 3 men, professional, efficient. A hood over her head, zip ties on her wrists, the world going dark and terrifying in seconds. She tried to scream, but a hand clamped over her mouth, and then she was being shoved into a vehicle, tires squealing as they sped away. Ji-hoon's phone rang 20 minutes later. Park Dong-min's voice oozed false politeness. "Kang Ji-hoon, I have something that belongs to you. If you've touched her, your former assistant is unharmed, for now." A pause weighted with threat. "You know my terms. Your territory in Gangnam, your shipping routes, and your weapons contacts. Sign everything over, and I'll return her in one piece." Min-sok burst into the office as Ji-hoon ended the call. "Hyung, you can't seriously be considering this. She doesn't even work for you anymore. She quit. This isn't worth losing everything." She was never just an employee. The words came out low and dangerous. Ji-hoon was already reaching for his gun, checking the clip. "Get the car." "This is suicide. Let me take a team." He said, "I come alone, or he kills her." Ji-hoon's hands were steady now, all panic crystallized into cold purpose. "I'm going." The warehouse was exactly where Dong-min specified, neutral territory near the river, isolated and perfect for an execution. Ji-hoon walked in unarmed as instructed, knowing it was a trap, not caring. Zara was tied to a chair in the center of the space, hood removed, blood trickling from her lip. When she saw him, her eyes went wide with something between relief and horror. "Ah, the infamous Kang Ji-hoon." Dong-min circled them like a shark. "Willing to die for his secretary? How touching, how weak." He grabbed Zara's hair, yanking her head back. "She's nothing to you, just another employee. Walk away and I'll consider letting you keep some of your territory." Ji-hoon's voice was quiet, absolute. "She's everything." The words hung in the air for one suspended moment. Then everything exploded into violence. Ji-hoon moved before Dong-min's men could react, disarming the closest guard and using his weapon to take out two more. Dong-min pulled a knife, slashing toward Zara, but Ji-hoon was faster, barely. The blade caught his shoulder instead of her throat, pain blooming white-hot, but he didn't stop. His fist connected with Dong-min's jaw, once, twice, driving the man back until he crumpled. When the silence finally came, it was broken only by Ji-hoon's ragged breathing and the sound of sirens in the distance. He cut Zara's bonds with shaking hands, and she fell into him, both of them bloody and exhausted and alive. "I told you to leave," he said against her hair. "Why didn't you run?" "Because I can't run from this anymore either." Her hands fisted in his jacket, holding on like he was the only solid thing in the world. "I tried. I got in that elevator and I tried, but Her voice broke. "I couldn't." The ambulance arrived in a blur of lights and urgent voices. They were separated briefly for treatment. His shoulder needed stitches, her wrist was sprained, both of them in shock. But the moment the paramedics allowed it, they found each other again in the hospital hallway. No words. Just Zara reaching for his uninjured hand and Ji-hoon lacing their fingers together like a promise. Neither of them was ready to speak yet, but both were finally ready to keep. The hospital room was quiet, except for the steady beep of monitors. Ji-hoon's shoulder was bandaged, Zara's wrist wrapped in a brace, and between them hung everything they'd almost lost. "I don't want you as my assistant anymore," Ji-hoon said into the silence. Zara's face shuddered, preparing for pain. "I understand. I want you as my partner, in everything." He shifted to face her fully, wincing at the pull of stitches. Business, life, all of it. Equal terms. No more employer and employee, no more Mr. Kang and Miss Williams. Just us, building something together. Her breath caught. "Ji-hoon, I know it's complicated. I know there are 100 reasons why it's a terrible idea." His good hand found hers again. "But I'm asking anyway." Zara studied him for a long moment, searching for cracks in his sincerity. Finding none, she spoke carefully. "I have conditions. Name them. You learn to say please and thank you. You ask instead of command. You see the people around you as people, not assets." Her grip tightened. "And you let me in. All the way. No more walls. Done." He paused. "My condition. You stop hiding from me. No more running when things get hard. We face it together. Even when it scares me, especially then." They spent the next 2 days in adjacent hospital rooms, navigating the aftermath. His mother arrived with food and knowing looks, taking Zara's hand and squeezing it with approval. Zara's mother came from the care facility on one of her lucid days, studying Ji-hoon with protective suspicion, before declaring, "You'll do, but hurt her, and I'll find you." The dementia couldn't erase a mother's instinct. The business world had reactions of its own. Some of his rivals saw softness, weakness to exploit. Others saw a man who'd fought his way through an ambush for someone he respected him, and respected him more for it. Ji-hoon found he didn't much care either way. 6 months passed, like a held breath finally released. They rebuilt everything from the ground up. New security protocols, new business structures, a new relationship with no blueprint but their own making. Zara moved into his penthouse, then insisted they find a place that was theirs, not his. They compromised on an apartment with a view of the river, where she could see both sunrise and sunset. On a Tuesday morning in December, Zara walked into Ji-hoon's office at 9 a.m. sharp. Some things didn't change, but everything else had. She wore jeans and a sweater now, her locks loose around her shoulders. Confidence instead of armor. She placed a document on his desk, not a resignation, but a partnership contract. Baeko Enterprises, restructured with 2 names at the top. Ji-hoon read it carefully, aware of her watching him. When he reached for his pen, he paused. "Please, stay forever." Zara's smile was slow and real. "That's better. Now say thank you. Thank you for not giving up on me." He signed with a flourish, then stood and drew her into his arms. "Thank you for teaching me how to be human again." They stood at the window together, hands intertwined, watching the Seoul skyline glitter in the winter sun. The empire spread below them, still ruthless, still dangerous, but now built on something stronger than control. "Coffee?" Ji-hoon asked. "Black, no sugar," Zara said. "I know." And this time, he did. Behind them on the desk, 2 names shared equal space on the contract. Kang Ji-hoon and Zara Williams, partners in everything that mattered.